DJDUBL.
It's DJDUBL here, and today I'm sat with none other than Damian Marley, a man that really doesn't need an introduction at all.
Hopefully.
Welcome back to the UK, my brother.
Thank you.
As a youngster, were you steered towards music career, or was it something that kind of just happened naturally?
Definitely something that happened naturally. As a matter of fact, too, my mother had to make sure to keep me in check. If my grades weren't up to date, I couldn't perform live. She would stop me. She would ground me from doing performances had my school grades not been, up to standard. So definitely it's something natural that, I was never steered toward it in terms of anybody purposely pushing me toward music, no.
It's quite interesting because a lot of the time as well, you find, as a generalization, very successful people in music are not often academically successful as well.
I think that's changing. I think when I look at Jamaican music right now, majority of people who are very successful are also very intelligent, very studious people. Mm-hmm. When you look at, for example, I can tell you, say, some of the popular MCs in Jamaica, Vibes Cartel, Alkaline, Kabaka Pyramid, Chronix, Protege, the list goes on. When you have conversations with these individuals, they're well educated.
Right. Okay. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
You're now an artist. I mean, you have been this way for a very, very long time in your own right. Your name holds its own weight. Obviously, given that your dad's Bob Marley, was there ever a struggle to come out from under your father's shadow? Was it ever difficult to become your own person as your own artist?
Not really, because I think the struggle is the same struggle that every upcoming artist has, regardless of what. Because I don't think you'd listen to my music just because of my name. You'd listen to my music because you like the music. And that's really the challenge every artist has, is to be heard. So regardless of what, I think at the end of the day, it's really about the quality of the music that you put forth and people's real appreciation for it. People don't appreciate my music because of my name.
Right,
it's because, so that's the reality.
Right, I got you. Can you tell me about your first studio session? What do you remember about that?
The first time I can remember recording my vocals was with the legendary Cat Core at his home. I'm very close friends with his eldest son, who actually plays in my band. He plays bass guitar with us here. But when we were kids, we used to hang out a lot together. And the first time that I had recorded my vocals was at his home, his dad. So I don't know if you're familiar with Third World. It's a legendary reggae group called Third World. Now that we found love, what are we gonna do?
Right, yeah.
And songs like that, right? So it was at his home. He had a little demo set up and he built a beat. And we did over a very popular MC in Jamaica at the time called Peter Metro.
Right.
And we sang one of his songs over the beat that he did. And that's the first time I can remember recording my vocals.
My introduction to Damian Marley was actually Welcome to Jamrock. I didn't get into dancehall music until my late teens. So I didn't hear a dancehall record until I was 18 years old, believe it or not. So when I really started discovering more and more into reggae music and stuff, and obviously 2005, when Welcome to Jamrock dropped, that was when I feel like on an international level, and especially in the UK, Damian Marley really arrived as a superstar of reggae music. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
When you were making Welcome to Jamrock, the single, was there ever a moment, did you realize like this track is very special?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I felt to myself that it would have done very well within the reggae core and our industry. You know what I mean? Did I know it was going to be that big of an international success?
Yeah. That
would, break borders for me. No, you can't say you predicted that, but I thought the song would be a very popular song. And the overall idea behind the song, like even the sample that we used, the Aineka Moses, is something that I always had in mind. That was my idea to sample that track.
Right.
And it's something I always had in mind and I always thought would have made a great record. So, and as I was saying to someone earlier, when you make music, you always have the intention and ambition for it to be as big as it possibly can.
Yeah.
So you can't say directly that you're surprised more than you feel gratitude and satisfied with the result, you know?
What was the point that you realized it was going as big as it was? When did it start to exceed the expectations?
You know what's funny is that it was my first time visiting Africa, and we went to Ethiopia to do a celebration there for my father in you know, celebrating his legacy and life in Ethiopia.
Very important place for Rastafari as well.
Absolutely. And when I landed there, my brother's mother, Mama Rita, one of the things that she said to me, she said, "You know the song I mash up England?" I'm gonna say, "Yeah." Yeah, and she said, "Yes, this the tune I go on bigger England." And that's the first time I knew that. That's the first time I was somebody had told me that.
Yeah.
And then basically by the time I came back from Ethiopia, the song had started to get life in New York. So that is when I can remember when, okay, this is going to be different than anything I've previously done.
When I got into reggae music, obviously I began to do a lot of research, and I was so surprised to see the kind of places that have huge reggae fan bases. Germany, Switzerland, even Japan, for example, which I mean is probably the furthest country from Jamaica, I think, geographically. Has it ever amazed you, or have you ever been surprised at the vast reach of reggae music?
Yeah, I guess you could say that kind of. I mean, the thing about it is this: when you, I was discussing this also with someone recently. When you think about it, there's really three countries that really have that kind of influence on world culture when it comes down to music. You have America, obviously.
Yeah.
Here, so being England.
UK, yeah.
And Jamaica. But the thing about it is we're so small. So that's the interesting, surprising factor about it, is that for our population of people and how small of a country we are in comparison to the two other heavyweights. But we are heavyweight. I mean, when you listen to world music, you know, we have influenced, you know, world music without a doubt, like, you know, the same kind of way.
I mean, hip hop people like the early hip hop DJs.
That's birthed out of reggae music too.
Jamaica. Grime in the UK, heavily derived from reggae music.
And if you listen to the pop charts now, what you hear going on, a lot of it is kind of like almost like soft dancehall. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So our influence is definitely there. So the surprising thing about, or the interesting thing about it, again, like I said, is that we're such a small nation, but to have that big of an impact on world culture is beautiful.
It's incredible, man. You're not afraid to push the boundaries with your music. That's evident in a lot of the collaborations you've done. The classic Distant Relatives album with Nas, of course. Even things like your work with Sean Paul, like a record Riot, which pushes the boundaries in towards kind of electronic music. The work you've done with Skrillex. How have you managed to do that and stay comfortably within your sound, but be so different? Does that make sense?
Yes. Well, the thing about it is really, I've managed to do that by not knowing how I've managed to do that. And I mean that to say that, once again, if you get too... You're trying to be creative. You're making music, you're trying to be creative. You're trying to try new things. You know, so to me, if you're doing things in too much of a calculated way, that kind of almost defeats the purpose of it all. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's really, you be yourself and you try new things. And if you end up doing something that's new that you like, you share it to the world.
Got you. You did a great record with Jay-Z last year. I'm interested to know, how did the first conversation with you and Jay-Z go? What does two artists of your stature talk about?
So the first time I ever met Jay-Z and had a conversation with him was shortly after Welcome to Jamrock, the single was released. And at the time, I wasn't signed to a major label, and I was being courted by a lot of major labels. Def Jam at the time being one of them, who Jay-Z was there at the time. Okay. So the first time I ever spoke to him or met him was because he was interested in signing me to Def Jam.
Okay.
Yeah. So you fast forward now, and of course, you know, we've run into each other various times over the years, and, you know what I mean, just being fans of each other's music and such forth, you know.
You're touring Europe with the album right now, the brand new album, the Grammy award-winning album, Stony Hill. Congratulations on the new award, by the way.
Thank you.
What's the relevance of the name Stony Hill?
Well, Stony Hill is the community in Jamaica where I grew up. From I was around 5 years old till I was around 15, 16 or so, you know, which is really a great place to grow up in Jamaica. It's one of the more privileged neighborhoods in Jamaica. And I think that it's really the aspiration of all Jamaicans to have your children grow up in a neighborhood like the one I grew up in. Regardless of where you're from, that's where you want to end up.
Right.
And that's really the inspiration behind naming the album that.
Okay. Whose voice is that on the intro to the album?
That's Big Youth, which is a legendary Jamaican DJ, or what we call DJ and what the rest of the world call MC, is Big Youth.
Okay, so is that a sample or was that written specifically for
No, well, it's one of his. All right, so what it is really is, it's a psalm from the Bible, yeah?
Right.
But he had recorded that in his career early on, and it's one of his hits. And then he came and redid it for me in the studios. Actually, not to that beat either, that is on the album.
Right.
He did it to the original beat that he recorded on,
Yeah.
and then we lifted the vocals and put it on that beat.
Okay. You've got a lot more into production more recently, is that correct? You've got obviously the Contraband album, you're the executive producer on that. And
Well, I would say I'm being acknowledged, or people are noticing that I produced some of the material that I've been producing of recently, more so, because I mean, I also produced majority of the work that we did on Distant Relatives was my production.
oh, okay, I didn't realize.
Yeah, and I was involved in even Jamrat the song. I was involved in the production of that and various songs on that album. Of course, my older brother Steve always has played a role as my producer in terms of doing production for me. But as I've grown and evolved, I've been get more and more involved in production also.
I understand this album you use live instruments a lot more, whereas the previous album was programmed, right?
Yes, and this album, for my albums, this album would perhaps have the most really live drums. When I say live, it's really live drums is what I'm talking about.
Okay, right. All right, which do you prefer? Do you prefer working live instruments or program?
No preference. I think, you know, you miss it either way. So when you've done a lot of work with the live drums, you start to miss that program drum sound. And then when you know, it's like variety is the spice of life, you know?
Yeah. Your style as an artist is very unique as a reggae artist because of the DJing that you do. You don't hear that, in my opinion, in a lot of reggae artists.
Well, when you say reggae artists, do you differentiate between dancehall and reggae?
I do.
Because that's become a new thing to me, which I don't agree with, right? Dancehall is a place, and the music that is played in the place is what you call dancehall music. We're all reggae artists.
Right.
Reggae is the music that we do. Dancehall is a place where it's played.
Got you.
Right? And the music has evolved over the years from a more singing style to a more MC rhyming DJ style.
Yeah.
Yes, but it's still a reggae music at the end of the day.
Yeah, right. So that's where I would make the differentiation. So Vybz Kartel later in his career, for example, I would say was a dancehall artist. However, somebody like Jah Cure or Chronix, I would consider a reggae artist. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I don't agree with that though.
Right.
In that sense, I mean, and even when you talk about Vybz Kartel, to me, I think he started off more as a dancehall artist, and when you really hear, he's been doing more melodic stuff over his years as part. Like, all right, when Kartel started out, his rhymes was like, in a macaca night, with a backla talking night. It's like very, not much melody. As opposed to, you know, everybody have to yak, so I'm going to get my clock, which is more melody, more singing.
Yeah, things
you
like
know what I'm saying?
Summertime as well, yeah.
So even when you say that, I kind of don't really share the same opinion as you. Yeah.
What I was getting towards was your style as an artist. Did anybody ever tell you that it wouldn't work because you do have that fusion?
No, not at all. Not at all. Coming up, you know, like for example, even like in the 80s then, I can remember like even my mom saying that perhaps the DJing thing would just be like a fad in music and fade out. You know what I'm saying? But obviously it has proven itself to have longevity.
Right.
Yeah.
I want to talk very quickly about Everybody Wanna Be Somebody. It's a track that's really kind of derived from like roots reggae sound. It's a very authentic reggae sounding track.
Yeah.
But to me, it's almost like the most relevant record on the album. Just because of how the social media age is these days. Everybody wants to be somebody.
Right.
Do you think that line there, is that something that, has it always been that way? Or is it that way now because of social media, do you think?
No, it's always been that way. I mean, that's human nature. Everybody wants to be proud of themselves. Everyone wants to be noticed. Everyone wants to be loved. Everyone wants the same things, don't they? As the great Black Uhuru said in Solidarity, everybody wants the same thing. They want to see the game on Saturday. They want to enjoy themselves. Everyone wants to work for a living. Everyone wants to keep their children warm. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
Everybody wants to be somebody.
Right. The other track which really stood out to me is Autumn Leaves, which I think is one of my favorites. I've got two favorites from the album, but that's definitely one of mine. And it's such a different sound for you as well. The orchestral, instrumental, and you were singing the whole way through. It's very, very melodic.
It's like a ballad, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Can you talk me through briefly the process of that song, like from where the idea came from?
Yeah, well, I love experimenting with music and listen, I have thousands of song ideas that never see the light of day in terms of the public. You know what I'm saying? And that's one of the ones that we ended up saying, you know what? Let's them have a listen to this one, you know what I mean? So but that come from being a fan of people like Nat King Cole, Ray Charles, Stevie Wonder, these kind of things, and just trying things, you know.
Yeah.
So even when we were writing that song originally, I thought perhaps that maybe I would give it to someone who actually sings. You know, like a great singer, like a Christopher Ellis, or you know what I mean?
Okay, yeah.
One of them kind of artists there, you know. But you know, people around me and family and friends and thing convinced me, you know, put it out for yourself.
Don't give that away. Like keep it.
Yeah. So, you know.
Excellent, man. Well, the album's absolutely incredible. So yeah.
Thank you.
I hope the next one is not as long. Maybe. I don't
No. We're coming up.
The last thing I want to ask you, something I ask everybody, and I'm particularly interested in your answer because of the answer I get from everyone else, is about the ultimate collaboration. So, dead or alive, any artist ever, who would you most like to do a record with?
I mean, I think the obvious answer to that for me would be my father.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's not even from a standpoint of, because of, it goes without saying what a great artist he is, but more so a standpoint of to be able to have that experience of doing something that I love, that I know that he would love also with my dad.
Yeah.
Which, being that I was so young when he passed away, I don't really have any memories of doing anything with him. So for me, that would be like the ultimate collaboration.
That's pretty much everybody else's answer as well. Bob Marley is the ultimate collaboration. It's incredible, man. Beautiful thing. Damian Marley, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for your time, brother.
Respect.
DJDUBL here with Junior Gong.
Up.